Well, if you've been in the world of Qigong for a while, you've probably heard a lot of crazy theories about when the best time to practice is. Same goes if you've been into yoga, Tai Chi, meditation, any of that stuff. There's a lot of traditional theories about when the best time to practice is. So I'm going to take you through some of those theories, sort out which ones help and which ones don't, and how you might kind of make that work with your life, as well as letting you know what I do in my own. So my name is Nick Laffrey. I've been practicing Qigong for about 10 years, yoga and meditation for about 5 years before that. I got into all of this because I went crazy, became a schizophrenic, and needed some help getting off some very harmful medications that were supposed to help the schizophrenia, but mostly it gave me just a bunch of other health problems. So managed to get off those meds through these practices and eventually, heal my body and get myself back to a good place, mentally, spiritually, physically, and I'd say probably better than I was before becoming severely mentally ill. So these practices have meant a lot to me, and there's so much transmission that's come down from thousands of years ago about all this stuff, and it's so useful. But then there's also just a lot of superstition involved and a lot of things that made sense a long time ago if you were living as a farmer or a monk or something in the ancient world that might not make as much sense today. So with the timing of your practice, just like with everything, there's trade-offs. There's ideal times to practice, there's less ideal times to practice, and there's perfect times to practice, and you're probably not going to get a whole lot of perfect times to practice. I'm here at this beautiful cabin. It has this hot spring on the property. Me and my wife are here. We're doing a bit of filming, a bit of journaling, a bit of practicing, just kind of gearing up. She's pregnant right now, and we're just kind of taking some time to just think about the next year of our lives and what all that's going to mean, and what better place to do it. And while I'm out here, I can do Qigong any time of day. I can do it in a hot spring. I can do it in a warm cabin. I can do it out next to this beautiful river that you can't see. It's amazing. And this is how maybe the hermits, the monks, this is the kind of lifestyle they might have had, where they were able to just be out in the wilderness and kind of pick and choose their times to do Qigong. But in the modern world, we have all kinds of things pushing and pulling at our schedules. We have kids, we have work, we have volunteering, we have family, we have friends, we have just all kinds of things that need us all the time. Taxes, it's all kinds of things that need done. And we might not be able to do Qigong every day at that perfect time. So what are the perfect times to do Qigong? In an ideal world, according to the Taoists and the Buddhists and the yogis and the people who invented these practices, the ideal time is said to be about sunrise or sunset. And this was said to be a time when yin and yang were in balance and harmony. So if night is the peak of yin, maybe midnight, the peak of yin, the middle of the night, yin being stillness, coolness, calm, silence, and yang being the middle of the day around noon, being heat, activity, motion, then the exact in-between time would be dusk or dawn, when the sun is rising or setting. And this is a really good time to do Qigong. I love doing Qigong at sunrise or sunset. I film most of my videos at sunrise or sunset, mostly because the lighting is just so great then. But I do love to practice then. So if I'm out on retreat, out in the wilderness, camping or something like that, I really love to do Qigong at those times. But in my daily life, I really don't. And that's just because it's not really convenient. There's so much going on at those times of day. Usually I'm sleeping at sunrise, depending on the time of year. But also the time that sunrise or sunset is, it changes all year, right? Maybe if you live at the equator, it doesn't. I need to check my geography on that. But if you're not near the equator, sunrise, sunset, it changes by hours throughout the year. And you can't exactly call into work and be like, sunrise was kind of late today, so I'm going to be an hour or 2 hours late. Doesn't really work. So I find making the Qigong fit with my actual schedule works a lot better than making it fit with the schedule of the sun or the moon or whatever. That said, it's ideal to do it with the sunrise or sunset. You actually do experience better energy. It is a better practice. I notice it myself. There is more of a sense of harmony, inner peace, stillness that comes with practicing at that time. Maybe it's the way the light is the perfect balance of infrared to ultraviolet, some perfect balance in there when the sun's at the horizon, and it influences your brain to be calmer. I don't know. Maybe it's something to do with the qi and the yin and yang. Either way, it really does seem to be very beneficial to practice at that time, but it's more beneficial to practice at all. So you want to do the practice you can do every day. Qigong works best if you do it every day, or at least most days. If you do it five times a week, 3 times a week, it's going to be more powerful than if you did it once a month, once a week, when you can, get your schedule together, get this perfect practice happening. It's going to be a lot more powerful that way. So that would be my number one piece of advice, is just find the time that you can do Qigong every day, or most days, right? Find a time that actually works for your life. Maybe that means getting up early ahead of your kids or something, or doing it on your lunch break at work before you eat, whatever it is. Now, another thing I like to factor in, so we got two systems here. One is kind of a Western medicine system, one's a little bit more Eastern. So on the Eastern side, you have the clock, the Chinese medicine clock, right? And this is I'll put it on the screen here. It's like a dial, and if you go around it, you can see there's different 2-hour periods throughout the day where different internal organs are more active in their qi. So the qi is moving through that organ meridian network with more power during that particular time of day. Now, does that change depending where you live on Earth, how long the sun is up, things like that? I would bet it does. Most of the people who invented all this stuff in Chinese medicine lived in China, right? So it's a very particular geography where there's like specific seasons and things like that. So I think some of this doesn't always necessarily apply outside of that geographical context. But if you do live in the northern hemisphere somewhere, likely it applies to you. So looking at this, you'll see why they usually recommend that you do your Qigong practice before 7 a.m. And that's because that's the metal phase. So from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m., you have the lungs and large intestine. That's your metal phase, and metal is going to be, even during the large intestine phase, it's still metal, and so you're going to be able to extract more qi from the air with your lungs. And they actually say that the air itself, not just the lung qi is more active, but that the air itself is like fresher and has more pure qi at this time of day. And so they would recommend to do your practice sometime before 7 a.m., usually between 5 and 7 a.m., and this would be the most ideal for practicing Qigong. Now you can see that right after 7 a.m. it's the time for the stomach and then the spleen, and these are your organs related to digestion in Chinese medicine. I know the spleen doesn't have a lot to do with digestion in more of a physiological context, which is why some people have actually been led to believe they actually, it's kind of a mistranslation or something. Something got lost in translation. It was really the pancreas, which does have to do with digestive enzymes. But anyways, so that's why they would say you do your Qigong in the morning before 7 a.m. and then after 7 a.m. when your stomach qi is nice and active, you're in the earth phase of the clock, then that's a good time to eat breakfast. And they actually recommend a pretty big breakfast in Chinese medicine, not necessarily like filling yourself, gorging yourself, but really just focusing on breakfast as an important meal, and maybe the most important meal, because that is the time when the stomach qi is active. So it's going to be the time you're going to be able to get the most out of your food. So this whole thing that we're having a craze about here in the West right now, or at least maybe a few years ago, where everybody was skipping breakfast and thinking that was this new health hack, Chinese medicine masters would be rolling in their grave hearing that, because they really believed that breakfast was very important for nourishing the spleen and stomach qi, giving you that strong center throughout the day, lighting up the digestion, giving you a strong digestion. And then if your goal is to lose weight or do any fasting or anything like that, that was actually better to do in the evening. The evening meal was the least important, it was thought of. So, at noon, the yang energy is the strongest, so we have a lot of kind of fire energy, and that's also said to be kind of good for digestion. And in the morning, the earth element is strong, and that's powering up our stomach and spleen. So that breakfast and lunch would be two kind of important meals to focus on, but dinner becomes a little less important. So they say eat a light dinner, maybe just steamed vegetables or something like that if you're trying to lose weight or do any fasting, is to focus on the evening meal as being smaller. Although some people, that's going to give you a bit of insomnia if you don't have some calories in before you go to bed. Now, from a more physiological perspective, we know that the peak of cortisol is kind of your primary stress hormone in the body. It causes stress, but in low doses that are physiologically normal. It just gives you a bit of energy. So that energy boost in the morning from cortisol should kind of get you out of bed, get you wanting to go work, go do things. Maybe when we were hunter-gatherers, it gave us the impetus to go hunt and fish while the animals were still out. Animals tend to be awake more early morning than they are in the middle of the day. So maybe that's where that comes from. But in so many of us, we have this chronic stress, chronic anxiety condition that's so prevalent these days. And that cortisol spike can be a lot higher than it's naturally maybe supposed to be, or might that might be if you wanted to be healthy and happy and peaceful. So we really want to level off that cortisol spike. Now, for some people, it's going to work really well to wake up, have a cup of warm water with lemon juice, and do the whole yogi thing, and just go straight to the yoga mat and do yoga or qigong with no food in their stomach, just that warm water, lemon juice, or just a glass of water or something. And some people, that's going to be great. Other people, that practice won't actually be that effective because their cortisol spike is so high that they actually sort of physiologically need food in their stomach first thing in the morning to prevent that cortisol from climbing like that. So some people are going to actually have to skip the morning qigong practice, ironically, to help with their stress reduction. I know that's gonna flip some of you guys' hats. No, qigong is the best way to lower stress. This is a qigong channel, and you're supposed to be telling me qigong's the best way to lower stress. It is. It's an amazing way to lower stress. But just focusing on that morning cortisol spike, some people, and you might experiment with this if you're suffering with anxiety through the day, especially if you notice it in the morning. Waking up and first thing having a meal. And not like a bowl of cereal and skim milk meal, like actually getting your carbs, fat, and protein, like a full meal. And quite honestly, from a Chinese medicine perspective, you got anxiety, you probably want more grounding foods. And usually that doesn't mean, fully plant-based meal, although some people are going to find that's the most beneficial for them. But usually if you need some grounding from high stress and anxiety, a bit of animal protein and animal fat can go a long way. So doing a bit of sausage or eggs or something with your oatmeal, really trying to keep it warm too. That's another big thing in Chinese medicine. Really good for the spleen and stomach is to have warm food, cooked foods. So not doing raw cereals and cold milk and cold orange juice, cold fruit, things like that. But starting your morning with, maybe getting your carbs from something warm like cooked oatmeal, or you can even do cooked apples and put a little bit of sugar and cinnamon on them, and that the cinnamon adds even a warming effect, and the cooking of the fruit makes it more warming. Raw fruit can be very cooling on the digestion, and that all kind of makes anxiety a little worse. Sort of anxiety and weak digestion usually go together in Chinese medicine, so we want to focus on helping the digestion, warming the digestion, warming the center, warming the stomach, and bringing in nice balancing, grounding foods. So getting all kind of 3 food groups, 3 macros of fat, protein, and carbs in reasonably abundant amounts. Not stuffing yourself, because that's going to be bad for digestion. When you feel that stomach have that overfull feeling, it's sort of like if you had a wood stove and you stuff it full of wood, and then they can't get any oxygen in there and the wood can't burn, so you got lots of fuel but no fire. So we think of the stomach as the same in Chinese medicine. We want to put in just the right amount of food where we're full-ish. They say about 80% full. There's still room for the digestive juices, right? The fire to get in there. So me personally, my body tends towards this hypercortisol state. And so for that reason, I tend to find morning qigong actually doesn't relax me. Because now if you can do qigong right after eating and not feel any digestive discomfort, you might be able to just eat and do qigong and then go about your day, and that could be your morning routine. I think most people, especially people with anxiety disorders, will tend to have a little weaker digestion, and will find that after you eat, you actually need to wait an hour or 2, or sometimes even longer, before you can do a physical practice like qigong, or you'll find your digestion gets disturbed. Me personally, I usually wake up, have a big breakfast, and then just go about my day, do some work, do some editing, do whatever I got to do for work, and let myself digest my breakfast. And after a couple hours, I do my qigong then, usually before lunch. So I guess if you don't have just a YouTuber working from home, setting your own hours, and you feel like that might work for you, to find a short qigong practice. As you see, most of the videos on my channel are 20 to 30 minutes. So you might be able to do that on your lunch break. Find a little quiet space in your office or wherever you work, and just do a little qigong before you eat lunch, and then you'll actually might find your digestion of your lunch is a lot better after doing some qigong, and just kind of getting yourself relaxed. Low stress state usually improves digestion. So now, if none of that works for your schedule or whatever, you think, I really need that morning meal to lower my stress, I don't really have time at lunch, I need to do qigong later in the day, then you kind of have 2 options. One, you can practice right before bed. That's a great time to practice, can really help you sleep for a lot of people. But that one, again, is going to be kind of individualistic. Some people doing Qigong before bed is going to really actually give them too much energy and they're going to be more awake. Other people is going to really help them sleep. It also depends what kind of Qigong you're doing. So there's certain styles of Qigong that you don't want to do before bed. I mean, some of it's pretty obvious. Just don't do things that elevate your heart rate, that, you know, build a lot of heat in the body, that are very physically exerting. You're going to want to do Qigong that's more just gentle, flowing, deep breathing, meditative, that style of Qigong. But there's, you know, one that's maybe a little counterintuitive, standing meditation, where, you know, you hold the tree and postures like that. That one, although you're not moving and you're not exerting a whole lot, it is usually not a great idea to practice before bed, because even though the posture is still, it really gets the qi moving inside, and particularly gets qi moving up the spine. So that one just energetically can make it a little bit hard to sleep sometimes, but that's going to be a little different for everybody, so you can experiment with that as well. The other time you might do is before dinner. So after you get off work, maybe you have a little snack, and when you get home, you know, as a way to kind of get rid of the stress, kind of move from your busy stress work life to your home, relax, play, you know, be with your kids, be a nice person to be around at dinner with your husband or wife or whoever you're living with. It can be nice to do the Qigong then to kind of create that transition. So to kind of wipe off that stress from work and get a little energy boost so you're not feeling exhausted from work, and so you can actually, you know, get things done around the house or just be kind of an enjoyable person for your family or roommates, for whatever to be around. So that can be another nice time to practice. And then it's also good because you're doing that sort of late afternoon, evening practice, but it's not so close to bedtime that you can't practice the more invigorating Qigong. So if you want to do invigorating Qigong and the only time you have is after work, that would probably be the best time to do it, because that's the time that it's not going to elevate the heart rate too much, too close to bedtime. So you can get that invigorating practice done, or the standing meditations, or anything you want really done at that time. So hopefully that makes sense for you. So again, my main point is just do Qigong when actually it works for you, when it helps you sleep or helps lower your stress or fits into your schedule. Just actually be practical and make it work for you, and mostly let go of all these old notions of the perfect times to practice, because we don't live in a perfect world. You probably don't live in a monastery. You probably don't live on the side of a mountain, and you're probably not going to be able to practice at those times super consistently. But if you do have those opportunities, if you go on a retreat, if you go camping, or maybe you're just retired and you can set your own schedule or something, or you're self-employed, then go ahead and practice with the sun, the moon, anytime you want to practice, and make it all fit with those cool, energetic things. My name is Nick Laffery. Really hope that helped you out. And if you enjoyed this or any of my other content, you can always subscribe. I do have a teacher training that is run online. So if you want to check out more about that, it's a 12-week program, run it twice a year. You can check out that link in the description. And don't forget to check out my other videos. I got tons of Qigong programs on here for all kinds of things: low back pain, neck pain, headaches, anxiety, depression, or just cool things like doing Qigong with the seasons or things like that. So look through my channel and you'll find lots of interesting stuff. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.